What if you strapped a bunch of powerful guns to your body, pointed them downward, and tried to use the recoil as a jetpack? Would you blast into the sky like Iron Man? Hover like a sci-fi hero? Or just fall over instantly? Let's think it through. First, recoil is real. When a gun fires a bullet forward, the gun pushes backward. That's Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The bullet goes one way, the gun kicks the other way. Now here's the big question. Is that backward push strong enough to lift a human off the ground? To lift off, you'd need upward force greater than your weight. If you weigh 170 pounds, gravity is pulling you down constantly. To fly, your recoil force would need to push upward harder than that. One bullet creates a quick, sharp kick, but it lasts a tiny fraction of a second. It's more like a punch than a steady push. A jet engine produces continuous thrust. A gun produces short bursts. That's a huge difference. Even if you fired many guns at once, you'd get a rapid series of jolts, not smooth lift. It would feel like being repeatedly kicked upward in fast motion. Your body would shake violently. And here's another problem: control. Real rockets and jets are carefully balanced. If thrust isn't perfectly centered, you spin. If one side pushes harder, you flip. Even tiny differences can send you tumbling. Now imagine several guns firing slightly out of sync. Instead of rising smoothly, you'd likely spin, tilt, or slam sideways. You wouldn't hover. You'd wobble out of control. There's also the issue of momentum. Bullets are small compared to a human body. Even high-speed bullets don't carry enough total momentum per shot to provide sustained lift for long. To stay airborne, you'd need a massive number of shots per second. And that creates another obvious issue. Recoil doesn't just push up, it pushes against you. Your shoulders, arms, and spine would absorb that force over and over, very fast. The stress on your body would be extreme. Even if the total upward force briefly exceeded your weight, it wouldn't feel like floating. It would feel like violent shaking. Now let's compare it to a real jetpack. Jetpacks work because they push out a large amount of gas downward continuously. That constant stream creates steady upward thrust. Guns don't create a stream. They create bursts. Bursts are unstable. Streams are controllable. So could recoil ever lift someone? Technically, if the total upward force over time exceeded body weight, you might get a brief hop, but it would not be smooth. It would not be safe, and it would definitely not look like a superhero movie. The surprising part, the physics itself doesn't say impossible. It says wildly impractical and uncontrollable. Momentum is momentum, force is force, but the way force is delivered matters just as much as how strong it is. This idea helps us understand something important about flight. Flying isn't just about pushing down hard, it's about pushing down smoothly, evenly, and continuously. That's why rockets use steady exhaust. That's why helicopters use spinning blades. That's why jets burn fuel in a constant stream. Stable thrust beats explosive bursts. So, if you ever wondered whether recoil could turn you into a human rocket, the answer is physics might give you a twitch upward, but it would mostly give you chaos. And probably a very short ride. If you enjoyed this what if, hit like so more curious minds can find What If Galaxy. Drop your next crazy science question in the comments and subscribe, because sometimes the wildest ideas are the best way to understand how the universe really works.